Hey everybody! Welcome to, like, why are you even watching this? We're just gonna get our 30th win in a row, right? 30 wins. It's not even hard because, like, I'm so focused because I've been inside for so long that nothing could possibly stop me. 4S70, 27 PB. 4S. There ain't no party like a 7D party is gonna show you how. That's right. I know. I'm familiar with S Club 7. You know what's weird, thinking back to being like a very easily influenced preteen/teenager, is that I would sometimes, I would hear from a non-authoritative source, like an older sibling of a friend of mine, or alternatively, the world's worst magazines, that like, oh, you get ready. The best British band of all time, S Club 7, is about to premiere their show on Canadian music television. And then when I was watching the show, I was like, this kind of seems to suck, but the writers at 13 Magazine can't be wrong. I've just got to figure out, like, how do I get into S Club 7? How can I appreciate their true genius? It's a very strange thing to think back upon, is like not necessarily enjoying something that sucked and thinking that you're the problem. Hey, I apologize if you like S Club 7. You know my tastes on music, or my takes on music, I should say. You like what you like. If you're listening to S Club 7 right now and you're offended that I called them bad, that's fair, I guess, but okay, just hit me is the thing. I don't like them, but if you like them and you are a good person, then is no harm, no foul, There's positives there. I'm just saying, as a 13-year-old, I relied on authoritative sources to tell me how to feel. I didn't realize they were part of the marketing machine. Okay, that's like too much money. 21 cents is ridiculously good this early. Oh my lord. PhD plus we're gonna get at least a reroll. Come on, you're not gonna give me one extra penny on it. Come on. Black candle. Ooh, that's not a secret room then. Very spiced and spicy. Hold on, it wouldn't be there either. So I feel like it's actually here. All right. I really want Black Candle. I feel like it would cut like 10 unnecessary minutes off of this run to never get the curses that are like, surprise, you don't know where you're going. But yeah, this run is obviously great right off the bat. Stats were good. Succubus is good. Razor Blade, with the amount of HP we have, is great. Like, there's nothing to complain about whatsoever. It's all popping. It's all popping. I've talked about that before, the music thing specifically, but like, when you're a kid, even when you're a young adult, you don't have your own taste. I know this is my opinion. I shouldn't say it in like an authoritative fashion. But I really think like a 10-year-old child does not necessarily, on average, have like a taste in music, If you ask like the average 10-year-old what their favorite song is, it's either like the theme song to their favorite television show, or it's like, it's a song like my parents play a lot that I like. At least that's my experience, right? As you get a little bit older, you can start to have your own taste for sure, but to some extent, I think you kind of bootstrap that taste by being like, hey, this person seems to be an authority on this subject. I'm going to see what they think about things, and then I will, use that as kind of a litmus test for my own opinion, It's a very confusing time when an authoritative source, or what appears to be an authoritative source, tells you something rules when it actually sucks. But I'm past that. I'm not 13 anymore, I'm 31. The inverted age of 13. And I got nothing else to talk about. I've just been playing like a lot of Animal Crossing. It's true. I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing. People have been, I don't want to say rightfully, but people have been holding me accountable, by the way, because like 3 weeks ago, I said, I don't really see the appeal of Animal Crossing. Now I've been playing quite a lot of it. I'm not afraid of being wrong. I feel like there's like 2 different types of streamers out there. And as always, whenever there's 2 different types of things, like there's always 2 different types of people out there when you define it as like one group who does X and one group who doesn't. Like it's just how the mathematics of that work out. Honestly, I think I'm happy where we stand here, weirdly enough. There's 2 kinds of people in the world. People who eat apples and people who don't. For a while, you're like, wow, he's right. How did he come up with such a salient observation? There's 2 kinds of... Anyway, you get the idea. You can't mess that up. It's easy. But there's 2 kinds of streamers in the world. Ones who can't stop themselves from saying ignorant things. And ones who know they're saying ignorant things but continue to do so for amusement. And I'm definitely part of the second group. Like, I say hot takes that have a little nugget of, like, my real opinion in them sometimes. But, and it's not to troll, it's just to, you know, generate some conversation and also perhaps some humor. Let's go deals with the angel on this one, dude. I'm not impressed with these items. So I say things that I could be proven wrong on, or at least have the majority of people disagree with them on a regular basis. I think it's very easy to just have the right opinions. You just follow, you know, Twitter, Reddit trends, and then go, you know, hey, my opinion is this opinion. It takes true courage to have a bold opinion, such as kids should do more homework. And I know you're like, NL, is that a real opinion? It is and it isn't. My real opinion on homework is that I leave my philosophy on homework to the experts, because I don't work in, like, you know, an educational context. I'm not a child psychologist, you know, etc., etc. My real opinion is that I could have done more homework as a child and probably would have benefited from it, because I spent a lot of my time idly doing nothing. And I know you're like, play is not worthless, like play is important. Yeah, but a lot of my play was worthless. Like, I think when you're playing, you know, and you're like, you know, learning skills, like you're learning social skills, or you're actually like even just enjoying yourself, that's good. But a lot of my time, especially in high school, was like, I'm just bored. I'm just bored. And what'd you do last night? I played 6 hours of ESPN NHL 2K5. How'd you like it? I don't know. It was like a 4 out of 10. I would have... The game was like an 8.5, but my enjoyment of it was low, because I played so much of it already. I played enough. But yes, my honest opinion is not necessarily that kids should do more homework, but that if I had a time machine and I would go back and raise myself, I would have been like, maybe I should do more homework. I can't speak in a universal context. People have asked, by the way, this has become like the most, probably because I keep bringing it up, this has become one of the most contentious opinions that I've ever had. It's that, and when I said food poisoning wasn't real, which of course was just ridiculous. However, that wasn't actually what I was saying, even though it is what I said. I always say, don't listen to what I say, just read my mind and tell me, or just realize that if you look at what I'm saying telepathically, you'll get what I'm trying to say. But rather that people don't go to the doctor so they don't get diagnosed with food poisoning, when what they actually might have is like a gastrointestinal bug that came from not washing their freaking hands when they left the movie theater bathroom for a decade, instead of like, oh, that restaurant that I ate at had beans in the meal, I bet they gave me food poisoning. Regardless, hold on. I put on my bitter guy voice. Let's move along here. So people have said NL, hypocrite. Now that you're expecting, do you still stick by your opinion that kids should do more homework? Well, I never, you know, really was that into that opinion to begin with. It was mostly just a springboard for conversation. But secondly, I already knew we were pregnant when I had that conversation. I say we're pregnant, but you know what I mean. I'm doing all the hard work of, like, you know, peeling oranges and cooking dinner. Kate's doing the easy part, just sitting around growing a whole human soul inside of her. Obviously being sarcastic. I will take this. We gained HP. In fact, we gained basically all relevant stats except speed. I'll take it. That's pretty good. We're moving closer to spun, too. Yeah, I already knew. I don't know. You know, that's something, parenthood is a pretty big thing. Planning on doing a lot more reading about it. I'm not so concerned, and maybe this is naive. I'm not so concerned about, like, the baby stuff. Like, not getting a lot of sleep, for example. I've been through college. My lack of sleep there was mostly self-inflicted or chemically induced. But, you know, it's not going to necessarily be the most pleasant time in the world. I've really enjoyed the past few years of getting really, really solid, regular, somewhat uninterrupted sleep. I'm not so worried about that. I'm more, if there's an element of, like, people, I can't say this yet because I'm not a parent, right? But we're getting close. And now I can give my true hot takes on parenthood. Which is, I always feel like when people are like, I don't want to change diapers, I'm concerned about not getting enough sleep, you know, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I look at that and I'm like, you're like a little baby. What you should be scared about is raising your child in such a way that you screw them up for life. And I don't just mean like emotional issues, I mean like leaving them unprepared to handle the world around them, you know? I'm way more capable of dealing with like the physical discomfort and mental fog of getting, you know, much less sleep for a year, maybe longer. And I'm already like, and this is not even sarcastic at all, I am already like redlining when it comes to not having very much free time for myself. I have like genuinely like less than 90 minutes a day of time to myself, and I like it that way. Like, I get a little stir crazy. I start to go like, you know, I've been sitting on the couch for like 45 minutes. I'm just gonna go take out like the garbage and, you know, do all this, etc., etc. Now it's not gonna get any easier because obviously there's gonna be more responsibilities. What it'll mean is I'll probably have to work a little bit less to fit in the, you know, the family stuff, which is totally fine. And, you know, that's why I've been storing nuts for the winter like a squirrel for like 8 years. But like that stuff doesn't bother me. What bothers me is like, you know, my daughter crying for 6 hours, and then I'm like, okay, fine, you can have some chocolate, and I give her some chocolate, and then like 15 years later she's like, you didn't give me the tools I needed to deal with life because anytime I cried you just gave me chocolate. Like, that would shake me to my core. That's way more terrifying than like, oh, well, they're gonna have to smell some poopy diapers. That doesn't bother me at all, dude. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's, it sounds like I'm making this up to make myself sound less grossed out than I am, but I'm genuinely not grossed out by like, I mean, I'm not into it, but I'm not grossed out by feces at all. And I think that there's like, you know, there's people out there that are like, you know, trauma medics and, you know, nurses and stuff like that, or, you know, they're in senior care or something like that. Like, these people are dealing with human excrement and etc., etc. on a daily basis. You think they go home every day and are like, oh, that's gross. You know, I'm sure they, honey, how was your day? You know, it was pretty bad. Had to deal with a little bit of stinky stuff, but at the same time, like, that's the job. I'm sure you get, like, you know, you get accustomed to it. That's kind of like, I don't know if I'm accustomed to it, but I just have, like, a high tolerance for that stuff. Obviously, if you're not familiar, pregnant women are not supposed to deal with feline waste because of this parasite called toxoplasmosis, which can be harmful for pregnant women. So I've been handling the litter stuff for a long time, and, well, I don't know, like 4 months. Well, I don't know, like 3 months, I guess. But, and that includes, like, you know, when Tomo was having his gastrointestinal distress, which people, by the way, thought that we made up as a cover. I would never gaslight my real human son like that. We did not make that up as a cover. He was really peeing and pooping everywhere. I would just be like, sorry, I guess I couldn't say sorry I'm sick, because you would be like, ooh, yikes. In today's time, fair enough. Anyway, let's just keep it moving here. But yeah, you know, like literally, like, I scoop because the way that the cats go to the bathroom right now, might as well take one with us. Like, when we go to bed, they're ragdoll cats. They're like, they really like being around human beings, and they're very, like, in sync with our own habits. When we go to bed, they both use the litter box that's closest to our bedroom, and then they go to sleep too. It's very cute. At the same time, you know, it means I don't want to go to bed, and then 5 minutes later the whole bedroom smells like cat feces, right? So I get out of bed and I clean it up. It's fresh. It smells terrible. But I just do it, and then I wash my hands and go to bed, because it's just poop. It doesn't bother me. The spiritual stuff bothers me way more, or like, you know, the real life stuff bothers me way more. Like being one of those, like the show that scared the crap out of me the most now that I'm looking back is, you ever see My Super Sweet 16? It's a little dated by now. But My Super Sweet 16 was this show that aired on MTV when I was a teenager, and it showcased, like, the most lavish 16-year-olds' birthday parties. Because 16 is like, in North American culture at least, it's kind of a big birthday, because you get a car, potential. I mean, you don't get a car. That's, like, from the, like, the decadent era of the 1980s, where it was just buy. But, you know, depending on, you can get a car. Let's put it that way. You might say, sounds like you got a car. I did not get a car. I don't know what I got on my 16th birthday. I did not get a car. I did get the right to drive my parents' car. I grew up driving a very reasonably priced Honda Accord. I will admit, they were flexing a little bit. It was the coupe edition, so it was a little sportier, which was really nice when I was the designated driver on prom night. Whoa. Ryan, is this the coupe edition of the Honda Accord from last year? It is. It is. It's my father's car. Have you noticed that there's less legroom in the back? Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, this show was like, I think look, I'm not gonna, I feel really weird about being like, it's a model of how not to parent, but like, it's like 16-year-old girls, or sometimes they'd have people on for like quinceañeras and stuff like that. They would be like, I want my 16th birthday party to be at a real castle, and I want, you know, let's be honest, they weren't asking for like Ferraris, but they were like, I want a BMW, and I want to ride into the party on a big white stallion. And then the parents were like, yes dear, and I'm like, oh, you can't do that. Like, I can't really, I sort of, like, you can blame a 16-year-old for being a little bit spoiled, because you're kind of starting to get like a little bit more of your own autonomy, but you're not quite there. But the parents, I'm like, oh my god, you gotta just be like, here's the problem. I guess it's hard for you to say no if you've never said no before. You know, if for 16 years of this individual's life you've never said no, if you say no for the Sweet 16, they're gonna freak out. So really the time to start, you know, planning that forest of expectation was like 15 years ago, but you didn't, and now things are tough. I think we can actually afford this. Let's do it, dude. That's what gets me. Cause like I think this is not necessarily a super real talk episode, but I feel like we're kind of there, right? I want for very little in my life. Even as a child, I like for Christmas. And this is I'm not complaining. Let's just start with that expectation. But for Christmas, I was like, I don't really want anything. And my parents are like, well, you have to ask for something. So I'd be like, okay. I'll take the new Franz Ferdinand CD, the self-titled, please. I never really, like, had it... Because, I mean, part of the reason why is because I, you know... I didn't grow up wanting, I suppose, in the first place, if that makes sense. You know, I always had, like, food on the table, and... You know, I was given an allowance. It was not a staggering allowance, I do want to point out. But, you know, I was given enough money that if I, like, saved it up for, like, 3 months... Maybe buy a couple of PlayStation 2 games or something like that. And I will say, I'm undecided about whether I would give my own child an allowance. We'll see how the world looks in, you know, 2030. I don't know, maybe it'll be prudent, maybe it'll be imprudent. It's gonna be hard for me to be like, sorry, you can't have an allowance. And then they'll be like, but the government gives you $1,000 a month just to stay at home. And I'll be like, well, you know what? You weren't there! You weren't there when I was cutting those tax checks from 2012. Oh, it spun, baby. Let's go. From 2012 to 2020, you weren't there. Stop acting like you were there. Yo, our speed is now through the roof. That happened fast. You know, this is just better at this point. I don't think this is that good, but why not? And let's buy that double key and get the heck out of town. But, yeah, you know, so, like, when people want something, like, I'm familiar with the human emotion of want, but I just don't feel it that much. And when I do feel it, I usually just kind of, like, let it simmer for, like, a week. And then a week later, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't buy that, because it turns out I don't really want it that much. Let's take Papula Duplex just for quality of life, so you can see the tiers more easily. It's an accessibility option. So I think I am, like... It's a foreign concept for me that people would, like, ask for something when they don't actually want it, you know? When they just kind of, like, would like to have it. So I'm trying to acknowledge that within myself as early as possible. That, like, when the cats meow, that doesn't necessarily mean the cats are hungry. It might just mean the cat is like, I want the taste of food in my mouth. Which is, like... I mean, to be honest, I don't mind spoiling our cats, because our cats, you know, aren't going to go out into society and possibly, like, you know, be terrible people. They're mostly just going to be, like, a little chubby because they begged for food and I relented, you know? But it's a good way to practice that muscle right off the bat, I think. I don't know. I mean, again, I gotta read the baby books and the parenting books and... subscribe to the parenting podcast and only talk about my child. And wow, can you believe it? They used a spoon today. I'm ready for that. But if I end up being one of the dads on my Super Sweet 16, oh please God, just don't kill me. Just like send me a life coach or something, okay? A singing life coach, like an old school telegram. Hold on. We do have Dark Judas, so it's really about how spiced you want to get, and I guess I've decided that we're getting spiced. I do kind of subscribe to that, and it's an old joke. It's been repeated many, many times, but I kind of subscribe to that Patton Oswalt joke about, like, you only get X number of birthdays. You know, I do feel like, you know, birthdays are important for a kid, especially. Because as a kid, you know, a year is like the longest amount of time you could possibly fathom. Something being 10 years away is like, it's never gonna happen. It's like being 8 and imagining, like, going to college. You're like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna even get there. Odds are. But as, like, you know, you get a little bit older, I literally, like, I cannot specifically remember any of my birthdays from, like, wow, what a haul there. I'm trying to think. Like, there was one birthday where me and a bunch of my friends went to the park where there was a concrete basketball court. And we played street hockey for a while. That was pretty fun. That was a good one. And then like a couple of years later, there was a birthday, and I remember that 2 of my friends got me the same pre-made deck of Pokemon cards. I wasn't mad. I was just like, you know, that stuck in my memory as the only memorable thing about that birthday. And then I remember when I turned 18, I was in college at the time, a high school friend of mine came over and we watched Rushmore in my dorm room. And I was like, that one was pretty sick. Apart from that... from you know, memory, the dawn of human memory to 18, not that many birthdays that I recall specifically. And I'm just gonna tell you, I think that's fine. I turned out okay. You don't need to get a BMW on your 16th birthday. I don't even trust myself with a BMW now, dude. Every time I drove it, I would be like, I'm one sneeze away from totaling like $55,000. Absolutely. You think I'd trust a 16-year-old with that? Under no circle, they don't even treat their bodies well. They're taking in like, you know, 100 hits of Juul a day. You're not even... I bet you won't even put premium into the gas tank on that one. And oil change, forget about it. Anyway, kids these days... No, kids all days. Kids all days. I'm just saying, you know... I guess what I'm saying is back in my day... Every birthday party for 5 years for every child was held at the same combination Pizza Hut and KFC. I know you thought I was going to say Taco Bell, but... And we liked it. Gosh darn it. That was when they had the crust that you could twist off to turn the crust into breadsticks, and then you dipped the breadsticks in the marinara sauce. And this is the first time small town Ontario had ever experienced marinara sauce, and everyone went, oh my god, this brand new invention tastes delicious. I'm so glad Pizza Hut is finally saw fit to give us the wisdom of marinara sauce. Otherwise, I never would have experienced such an exotic food. You know what's weird for me? Is that, and I think this is natural, by the way. I don't think this is unusual. But every time, I can still remember being a child, of course. But every time my dad, even to this day, when he tells me stories about like what it was like for him growing up, it sounds like it took place in like black and white, you know? Because I'm like, it's ancient. Tell me more about the 1970s, father. I'm now realizing, like, my dad was 23 when I was born. So legitimately, I will be like close to a decade older than my dad when our child is born. So my stories are gonna be like that much older. And when I think back, I'm like, okay, when I was 23, so that was like 2012, basically. Life wasn't that different in 2000 to where it was in 2012 or, you know, 2015. But I guess it probably just seems like that because I grew up like that. You know, because I grew up in the midst. It seems like things have not changed that much. I don't know, because people will probably be baffled. If you're born in 2020, you will be baffled, I'm sure, by things that seem very mundane. Yeah, whatever, Dad. You were born before the smartphone came out. Yeah, like 22 years before the smartphone came out. And you know what we did? We spoke to each other. If I wanted to talk to somebody that was my friend from high school, I got out a big yellow book. I searched for their last name. I called the first name on the list because I don't know their parents' initial. And they went, no, sorry, that's a different Collins. And then I called the next Collins on the list. And I went, hey, is Beth there? And they went, oh, yeah, 1 second, who's calling? And I say, Ryan from school. And then 5 seconds later, you hear, it's Ryan from school? And then, you know, you have your conversation. And we liked it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. It's a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. See you next time. See ya.